So he said to Elaine, "Mom, these two cars look good, but they are too expensive to keep. Take this Bugatti as an example. One tire costs more than 100,000, plus 4 tires. It costs 5 to 600,000 to get up, and it can be maintained at a random time of tens of thousands. If it is scratched, it may cost more than 100,000 for one coat. How can our house be able to start?" When Elaine heard this, she sighed in disappointment, and said, "If you have the money to support this thing, it's better to set my teeth." As she said, she reached out and touched her tooth socket and complained, "My front teeth have been missing for so long, and don't know when I can plant them." Claire said, "Mom, don't worry, I have already made an appointment with the dentist in advance. As soon as your legs are better, I will take you to implant the teeth and make the best porcelain teeth." Elaine nodded in satisfaction. Claire said to Charlie, "Husband, which one are you going to drive tomorrow?" Charlie said, "It doesn't matter, you choose one, and I will drive the other." Claire said nervously, "I'm afraid I can't drive well. Both cars are very powerful. I'm afraid that something will happen accidentally. If you scratch someone's car again, it will be troublesome." Charlie smiled and said, "It's okay, don't have such a big psychological burden, just treat these two cars as your own." Claire said, "You should give me an introduction and how to do it in detail." Charlie nodded and said, "Okay, then I will introduce this Bugatti to you." At this moment, a brand new Bentley Continental drove into the Thompson Villa area. The driver was Harold, who was dressed in a straight suit and looked like a dog. Sitting in the co-pilot was his father Noah. Sitting in the back row was the old lady of the Wilson family and Wendy. Recently, the Wu family's investment in the Wilson family has arrived, and the Wilson Group has repaid the loan owed to the bank. So the bank has also unblocked, and the Wilson Group has also unblocked the sealed Wilson family villa and antique cultural relics. The resurgence of the Wilson family group made the family extremely excited. Harold hadn't really experienced the life of the rich second generation for a long time, so he slapped the old lady, hoping that she could buy a luxury car from the company to fill the storefront. In the previous Wilson family, the best car was the Mercedes-Benz S450, which was priced at about $1.5 million. Noah's car was an Audi A8, while Harold's car was an old BMW. Originally, the family intended to replace it with a better car, but unexpectedly, something happened at home later. Not only was it not replaced with a car, but even the old BMW was found by the bank. Harold knew very well that if he wanted to become a rich second generation and let others look at him again, he must first have a good car. After all, he can't carry the Thompsons' villa on his back, and when he go out, what others really think about him is what kind of car he is driving. After such a long and hard life, Mrs. Wilson couldn't wait to make a high profile, so she immediately decided and bought a Bentley Continental that cost more than $3 million. Harold had never driven such an expensive car, so he was more excited than anyone else when he bought the car. At this time, Mrs. Wilson was sitting in the extravagant rear row of the Bentley, touching the handmade pure leather interior, and exclaimed, "This good car is really good. This Bentley is much better than my previous Mercedes." Harold said, "Grandma, Bentley is actually a bit worse than Rolls-Royce, or let's buy another Rolls-Royce if we don't look back." The old lady said, "A Rolls-Royce is worth 7 or 8 million. It is still too early to buy a Rolls-Royce. Our top priority now is to quickly restart the business of the Wilson Group." Harold hurriedly said, "Grandma, what I mean is that I also want to frustrate the spirit of Charlie's family. Don't think they can live in a Thompson first-class villa, but the car they drive is still too shit BMW 5 Series. Add up to less than 1 million, less than 1/3 of our Bentley. If we drive a 7-8 million Rolls-Royce, we just drive to their door and poke them. Go to the backbone of home." Wendy said, "Brother, do you still need a Rolls-Royce if you poke the spine of their family? This Bentley is enough." "Yes." Old Mrs. Wilson coldly snorted, and said, "Harold, drive directly to their house. I have to make fun of this family. I asked them to return to the Wilson Group before they were reluctant to come back to the Wilson Group. Now the Wilson Group is alive." I don't regret it after seeing them. Mrs. Wilson has always been very dissatisfied with Charlie's family. At the beginning, she begged them to come back, but no one of them took them seriously. Now that she has received a huge investment from the Wu family, she doesn't need to put their family in her eyes. Moreover, the old lady felt that Charlie's family was just outsiders. It looks like there is a Thompson first-class villa, but in fact it is nothing more than that. Both Charlie and Jacob did not have a job, and had no income at home. Although Claire opened a studio, the scale is small after all, and the income situation is not too optimistic. So the old lady firmly believes that their family is in the Thompson first class. That is, they can barely afford to live, but they must not be able to compare with their current self. At the beginning, she needed them to come back and ran to their families to make all kinds of pleadings. They lost their face, but they looked down on themselves and were reluctant to go back to the Wilson family again. Now the Wilson family has weathered the storm, and they just want to save the face they lost before. Get it all back.